Hello, good evening. Welcome to another Wednesday evening. It's a Wednesday evening interview. This evening we are blessed to have Ayya Santussika and Ayya Cittananda. Venerables, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So we'll just read a quick bio of each of you. But so this is Ayya Santussika on viewers left. Born in Illinois in 1954, Ayya Santussika began exploring meditation in the late 70s. She received a BS and an MS degrees in computer science while being a single mother. After working as a software designer and developer for 15 years in the Bay Area, she trained as an interfaith minister and received a Masters of Divinity degree in 2002. She visited monasteries in the US, Europe, and Asia, learning from master teachers, mostly in the Ajahn Chah lineage, in which her son, former Gunawudo, David, was ordained. He was one of my teachers, my early teachers. In 2012, she received full ordination as a bhikkhuni and hence founded the Karuna Buddhist Vihara, a neighborhood Theravada Buddhist monastery for bhikkhunis.
And Ayya Cittananda was inspired to follow the Buddhist path in 2005 after a college philosophy class. After completing a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing and working as a registered nurse in Texas, she lived as a monastic at a small Pure Land Chan monastery in Florida. She spent time practicing at monasteries in England and Scotland and at Aloka Vihara in Placerville, California. She took Anagarika precepts at Karuna Buddhist Vihara in March of 2015, Samaneri ordination in April of 2016, and Bhikkhuni ordination in May of 2018 at Buddhi Vihara at Santa Clara, California. And we've had the Ayyas up to visit us numerous times and have gotten ever closer to memorizing permanently those bios, but we aren't quite there yet. But for those who don't know, Ayya Santussika and Ayya Cittananda have been, they're Clear Mountain's Bhikkhuni advisors. They are such deep friends and sisters and guides to us. We're so grateful. We get to have them visit later in June. And we kind of realized about a month ago that we hadn't actually gotten to have them on the Wednesday live stream. So Ayas, thank you so much for joining us and for your friendship.
So Ayya Santussika, this is somewhat of a special week. On Monday, that was your birthday. So in your most recent Dhamma talk, you give some really nice reflections in which you say, the body is 70 years old, but the mind is not aging. The mind is not aging. I'm curious if you would be able to maybe just start off on this your birthday week, just sharing a bit more reflections on that of aging body, but non-aging mind.
Well, of course, the aging body part is really obvious, and that's a huge resource for reflection on impermanence, suffering and not self, all of it, all of the three characteristics. And this investigation of what is the mind, what is chitta, and very different kind of descriptions and teachings about it that we see coming from the Thai forest tradition. The forest masters have a different way of talking about chitta sometimes than, say, the traditional text, the commentary. And one of the things that struck me recently was a Dhamma sharing or Dhamma talk that Ajahn Chah gave to the bhikkhunis, talking about time. And he pointed out that this difference in the way that Thai forest masters talk about the chitta, because like Ajahn Ganha said, the chitta never dies, and I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "If you ask that question, you're still confused," which I felt was probably true based on the different kinds of descriptions and teachings that people give. But with this discussion with Ajahn Chah in talking about time, we actually, I was able to share with him that long ago in my meditation, there was a time when it became clear to me that time was a mere convention, just to help us keep track of what we're doing and how we're relating to each other and living our life. We kind of need to see past, present, and future, but it's possible in meditation to recognize that that's a mere convention. And in an altered state of consciousness, we might know that there is this kind of state outside of time. And that's what Ajahn Chah was talking about. He said that we can think of the chitta as outside of time. It's never born, it never dies. It's outside of time. And when I think about it, the mind, if I think about that as the mind, that's not what we're talking about when we think, oh, the mind ages, it gets forgetful, it may get dementia, it may have Alzheimer's, it may, deteriorate in many ways, but that's not actually the mind, it's actually the brain. It's a physical problem. It's part of the body. The brain is part of the body, and that belongs to nature, and that is decaying and falling apart, and is going to completely fall apart one day and not be able to sustain life anymore. It's not going to be able to sustain or serve as a vehicle for the mind, because the mind is using the brain, the body, and the senses, all the khandhas really, for taking action in the world, for doing anything. But the mind itself separates from the body at the point when the body disintegrates or deteriorates. And then we start to see interesting phenomenon, like when people get really close to death. A lot of times, even if they've had incredible confusion, memory loss, not be able to recognize their relatives for a long time, it happens frequently that very close to death, they'll be able to name everyone, speak cogently, talk about serious matters, and then die. And I refer to Ajahn Brahm because he has a lot of interest in this whole area, and he talks about how he believes that that's when the mind is actually separating from the body, and therefore it doesn't have to operate through that kind of mess of a brain that's been aging and deteriorating. So this really rings true for me. It rings true based on things I've experienced in meditation. It rings true based on the teachings that I really trust from the Kruba Ajahns. And to recognize this, that the mind isn't aging. The mind isn't, we want to say, what we're calling mind here, it's not in the khandhas. And that, there's always the effort to remove the defilements so that the mind is clear, the mind is pure, and we can live really relying on the wisdom of the mind. And that, realizing nibbana, arahantship, is really that point where those other tendencies of desire and aversion and confusion are gone. So I feel like, the body's aging, the mind's not aging. As long as I can use this body down to the last breath, down to the last conscious moment through the brain, I can make progress with clarifying, purifying the mind, realizing the truth of the way things are. And then after the mind separates from the body, my intention to continue that work, whatever is left that needs to be done, and my aditan, my determination to be a bhikkhuni for every lifetime until I realize nibbana, that is very likely to continue to evoke and invite circumstances to support that. That's what I think.
Wow.
That was a lovely birthday reflection and life reflection, Ayya. And I had two questions that kind of branch from there. One is, and perhaps this is the one we can lean into. I know you both have had to hold this dichotomy of timelessness and timeliness, holding your core of monastic practice and starting Karuna Buddhist Vihara and all the bridge building and hut building and other building that entails. And I know that this is a dynamic you both are, working to skillfully balance. And I wondered if you had reflections. You just came out of Ayya Santussika. You just came out of a 3-month, I believe, silent retreat. And I'm curious about any gems you have for us from that time of quiet. And then Ayya Cittananda, in the meantime, you were kind of holding down the fort at Karuna Buddhist Vihara. And I'd be curious about, insights you had about working in the realm of time and, how you kept your center through that. And this will be relevant for Ajahn Kovilo and I as we try our best to do the same. It's a lot of words, sorry.
Okay. So for me, the 3-month retreat was really like a landmark, like a watershed moment, because I haven't had that opportunity in 15 years, and only once before that at Chithurst when I lived there through the winter time. And it was wonderful because it also came at a time when we were just finishing our 3rd kuti, and we feel like, okay, that's enough for a while, enough. So it's like really turning our attention to practice. I don't just mean meditation, but of course, being able to get as much meditation time in as we can, given all the other things that we have to do, but also bringing things to a point where you can stop for a while and not think about it as an ongoing building project to build a monastery, because the monastery is never finished. You keep building. You can always have more space for people and give more of our time. And, so it is necessary, like you say, to find some balance and to keep our priorities clear and let our priorities change as the conditions allow. It's like now I'm living in a kuti for the first time, and it's a game changer. It is just so great to be not in a building where people are coming and going and there's so much other stuff going on, and to have that space and to give that, really support that with time, really, really helps. So I just think, it's taken a while. I don't think it'll take the two of you as long to kind of come to a plateau where you've got enough facilities. And I say that because, it's frankly a little easier when you're guys, because there's a more of a, what do I want to say, foundation, I think, available through the conditioning of people to support monks in monasteries. And I'm not complaining, because I feel like we have such wonderful support from our beautiful community and people. But to just notice how much the first phase needs, and then where there's enough for some period of time, and take that time. That's my thought.
No. Thank
How
you.
about you, Syed, holding the fort?
Yeah, I lost my voice last week, so it's still not very. You can hear okay though, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the main thing was not wanting to waste time so much. It's really clear how valuable time is when you don't have that much of it, or when you feel like you don't have that much of it. And it was fun playing with like using everything as practice. So when we went to go see Ajahn Chah a few years ago, he was saying that, well, 2 hours of meditation a day is enough for a monastic to get enlightened. All you really need is 2 good solid hours a day, and the rest of the time you should be working like crazy. work until you drop, basically, but with sati and samadhi and panya going. Or that's not quite it, was it? Is it? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Sati,
Yeah.
sati, samadhi, and panya.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was into the sati part because that was the easy one, and for going all day long. But it was good to practice with that, because I don't even really like anymore the idea of holding down the fort. It makes it sound like there's some kind of battle coming, and it's more like just I don't know, what, carry the basket. I don't know, something more innocuous, less pugilistic sounding somehow. I don't know, but it wasn't that hard, really, if you could just have the sati going, and with the aspect of remembering in there, in the word sati, like, oh yeah, I could be not stressed out about this thing I have to do right now. I could just do the thing, and whatever happens, it's okay. Do my best and like focus on the thing. So I think that was the biggest kind of takeaway for me, is like, don't waste time. Use everything for practice. And 2 hours of meditation is enough a day. Yay. Because sometimes it's like, if that's all you get, what's the problem? I mean, I know plenty of our lay folks who meditate 2 hours a day every day,
Yeah.
and
work.
and it's doing great for their lives. So it's kind of like, I don't need to worry about this. I don't need to complain about it, or feel like I'm slacking as a monastic if I'm not sitting 4 or 5 hours a day or something. It's okay, because I can use the rest of the time for sati, samadhi, and panya, and all the other beautiful aspects of the path you can come up with during the day. Oh, how can I look at this with compassion? Or how can I look at this with more loving kindness? And it's a whole eightfold path. It's not just the meditation is king kind of idea. So you can do it. I'm not worried about you too.
It resonates well with, I remember Ayya Santussika quoting one of Longpo Ganha's other phrases, and this might be related, but just do everything as a gift. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ajahn Chah just lives that so well. I mean, whether it's Ajahn Chah or both of your answers, I love yours as well. But they're different. And it reminds me of this really beautiful, I got a lot of favorite suttas, but Majjhima Nikaya number 32, the Maha Gosinga Sutta, where you've got all of these great disciples, Sariputra, Ananda, Mahamoggallana, Anuruddha, and they all go door to door. They're all staying in the same monastery, and they go to door, and they say, "Come on out. We're gonna have a Dhamma talk." And then they ask one another. They say, "The Gosinga solitary wood is delightful. The night is moonlit. The solid trees are all in blossom, and heavenly scents seem to be floating in the air. What kind of practitioner could illuminate the Gosinga solitary wood?" And then each of them take turns saying what their ideal monastic would be. And it's kind of descriptions of themselves. Like Sariputra talks about one with wisdom, and Mahamoggallana's psychic powers. But I love this question, and I'm curious how each of you would answer that. Like, what kind of bhikkhuni could illuminate the Gosinga solitary wood?
I think we should answer it for each other, not for ourselves. Can we do that?
That's
Are you up for
easier.
that?
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think the kind of bhikkhuni that can illuminate the redwood forest at the KBV Hermitage is one that really isn't afraid to dive into whatever it is that's wholesome. and isn't afraid to identify and set aside the unwholesome. And in that lack of fear and trepidation, there's an immediate picking up of whatever task there is, whether it's ever been done before or not, by her, and doing it. Like the wall needed to be, the new wood stove was heating up the wall too much. And this all happened while I was away, this Vasa. And so this bhikkhuni here ripped out the wall and put in cement board and put up tile and grouted it all and did it all herself. And she never had done anything like that before. Or building the shrine, that's outdoor shrine with our beautiful gifted Buddha statue on it. And she's like, let's have a mosaic here. And she made a mosaic for the first time in her life. Just, and this happens again and again and again and again. And then doing those things with love and mindfulness, and at the same time helping people understand, what they can do at the Vihara, and at the same time seeing how we can improve. And I think that, and the special connection with discussions with the devas doesn't hurt.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the kind of bhikkhuni that can illuminate our redwood forest with the Dhamma. I think patience is a big one. Having a lot of patience for like the problems that come up, or trying to understand aspects of Dhamma and explain them, or spending time with people when they really need advice, or just the kindness and the compassion. So patience is really an important quality. And wisdom, of course, how to help people, how to solve the practical problems, all of those things. And the ability to change that, like you were talking about, seeing the unwholesome habits or patterns and actually being able to change them like pretty quickly, seeing something that, oh yeah, that's not good. And then just working with the mind so that it doesn't happen anymore, even if the impulse is there or it takes a few tries, having that patience with yourself too, to be able to be like, yep, I goofed up next time. And then just being diligent about it and being able to. And I find that to be a really rare quality. It doesn't sound like much, but when you live with people over time and you know who can do that and who can't. I don't know anybody better at doing this than Ayya Santussika. So I think that's what I would say. Is that long enough? I don't talk much. It's long enough.
It's a great answer.
Okay.
And when you speak about this quality of suvacha, like being softer, easy to speak to, and change, or seeing the unwholesome and correcting, and the teachings the Buddha gives on those, that encouragement is, some of those passages are some of my favorite. And I know both of you engage in and lead regular sutta study on Wednesday evenings, actually at 7:30. And I'm curious if both of you had a teaching from the suttas, one or two, that have really rung in your mind and hearts over these years as bhikkhunis and as monastics, like words that just, the ones that keep on echoing and coming up, even small phrases. It's okay if not. It doesn't have to be a direct quote. So,
I can really resonate with that. I have many favorite suttas. I really, really do. Yeah.
Has there been one recently that has been kind of stood out a bit more?
Well, just recently we were looking at the Upakilesa Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, and what has been so interesting about that is the kind of ongoing development of taking that deeper, which what I feel encouraged by is understanding the part where the Buddha says he saw the problem with doubt arising during meditation and how that took him out of immersion. And then he decided that he was gonna not have doubt arise again. And he goes through every one of the upakilases in the same way. Oh, then drowsiness is not going to arise again, or I'm not going to lose focus again, or just. And this actually came from Ajahn Brahmali when I was in Australia, and he pointed out that is really a suggestion given to the mind. It's not like you have to, kind of beat it out of yourself or somehow go through some extraordinary purification for it to not happen again. It's when you sit down and you go, okay, now train the mindfulness. You just drop that suggestion into the mind, not to allow doubt to take root, and not to lose focus, and so on. And then to start to really work with this in meditation, excuse me, and see, that it's very much like reminding yourself what time you want to wake up in the morning before you go to sleep. And then finding that, yeah, it's pretty standard that you wake up about 10 minutes before the time. And this is the same effect, where you just plant a suggestion in the mind, and the mind uses the sati, the mindfulness, to follow it. And I really appreciate that. It's like, I think for me, the main teaching, probably given my character, given my conditioning, is just to try, but not try so hard that you're working against progress, and to not beat myself up, and to go softly and firmly, consistently and lovingly, and that's what really makes it work.
Right, Cittānanda, any thoughts? Or
Well, now I'm thinking about hers. Yeah.
We'll have to call you back when we have
some
they're
thoughts
going to
about
hit
that.
us later. Yeah.
I have some questions and thoughts about the idea of how you can just suggest this to your mind and have it happen.
yes, so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it takes kind of this is the Buddha talking about his own mind and how that works. And I think it does take a strength of mind, a certain strength of mind, to have it function that maybe I just don't have built up yet. But we'll see.
Can I actually? Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Well, just to sort of piggyback on that suggestion of dropping something into the mind, briefly, Ayya Santussika, you mentioned a determination you've made, which really echoes Tenzin Palmo's, who we interviewed recently, about being if you are reborn, being reborn as a bhikkhuni every life. Well, not straight out of the hospital, I'm assuming, but becoming a bhikkhuni in every life to come. Would you speak to that aspiration and its reason? And if others have an aspiration for their death and their rebirth, how does one go about making that? And what's a good aspiration?
Well, for me, that aspiration is so natural. It's the way the faith has developed in the Buddha and Dhamma and Sangha, and the way that I feel the vehicle of the monastic life is so incredibly valuable, so incredibly such a great guide and support and protection. And it's like, I know that I'll never disrobe and I'll always want to be a bhikkhuni. And when I told my son that, I think he might have still been Ajahn Chah at the time before he left the robes. And he said, well, you know, you might be born male. Don't eliminate that possibility. But, and I know, you know, I really would like to come back in the female form again and again, and in robes as soon as possible. And I do see other people who seem to have made such a determination in previous lives. And I think it's very likely that Ayya Cittananda did, because, you know, she woke up one morning when she was about 19 and said, I think it's time to go to a monastery. And that had not occurred to her before. And, you know, there are other people who also seem, I mean, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi told me about the first time he saw a monk walking across campus when he was in college. And it was just this immediate draw, you know. It's like, there's definitely stuff going on in previous lifetimes that brings, you know, us into a situation where we just know we want to go in that direction. And so I feel like it's something that will just happen based on our determination. And the determination isn't with grasping. You have to let it go. You have to just hold it in your heart and know that this is the direction you want to travel, and then let go of all attachment to it. And that seems to be the way things work. And I feel like, you know, that aspiration is pretty, in a way, specific, but it doesn't say anything about, you know, where, you know, or any of that. And it is good to maybe make a determination that to be reborn in a place where you can practice the Dhamma. You know, I really like the chant of, with the aspirations in it, to have an upright mind and practice Dhamma, and it be in a place where other people practice Dhamma. And, you know, that kind of a wish, you know, looking at the best things that you've experienced so far in life, and to, you know, plant that seed in the mind that says, I want this to be part of the situation I find myself in wherever I go.
Gosh, conversations like this are so useful. I mean, you read a sutta like the Reappearance by Aspiration sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, and you've got the words. You say one could, if they wanted to, if they've got the right amount of virtue and generosity, etc., reappear somewhere. But you talking about it, you know, is a great model for other people these days. How does someone actually live that? And incline in that direction. So, yeah, wonderful perspectives. I think we'll open it up to questions from the audience, if that's okay. Awesome. So we got a lot of people just saying, great conversation, this is awesome, Sila Samadhi Panya. But here's the first question. Any advice on how to maintain mindfulness while doing work? It seems like they often feel like oil and water.
I think that's yours. Oh. I don't know. I'm sticking to it with the remembering part of sati. That aspect of the word is like actually remembering, oh yeah, I want to be mindful. I don't want to be thinking about, you know, this project I have to do while I'm washing the dishes. I just want to be washing the dishes and focus on that. It's good for peace of mind and for the task at hand. And it keeps the mind calmer and more centered from when you have to go sit on the cushion and meditate. So it's reminding yourself, and you can put little like sticky notes on your computer screen, or you can put notes on your bathroom window, your bathroom mirror, or whatever, little things. Or, you know, every time you go to the bathroom, it's a little placeholder for you. Oh yeah, mindfulness. Okay, every time there's like a change in your activity, it's a good time to insert that idea of, okay, I want to be mindful when I do this new thing now. So I think things like that for me kind of worked when I had a regular lay person kind of job. And I think it still works for me now, just having, making up your own things that work for you is important. Just like the rest of Buddhist practice really is, it's so personal. You do have to come up with your own little tricks and see what works and what doesn't. So yeah, take a stab at it. Let me know how it goes, because I might steal some of your tips. What do you got? Yeah, you want to say anything?
Well, I was just thinking about you and the way you work. And what I noticed too is, I think part of your mindfulness is mindfulness around being kind.
Ooh.
And you've been doing it for so long that I feel like it must feel automatic, but you come back to kindness so often.
No.
That I think that is very key in keeping your mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
That the kindness and the mindfulness work together.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful answer. We have a comment. Having served the Ayys at the monastery, I can say they taught me to practice every moment in and out of meditation. Little Anjali emoji. Karuna says, I saw Ayya Cittananda sitting on a big branch of a redwood tree and chopping the branches. She is so fearless.
I don't remember that.
All 7 to 9 p.m. Wednesday meditation and sutta study. I did get that wrong. And we wanted to mention that, as many of you know, some of our Zoom session goes until 7:30, but either you can jump straight onto the Ayys sutta study, but if you do attend Clear Mountains, the Ayys wanted people to know that they can jump on the sutta study at any point, and the first 30 minutes are meditation.
Actually, the first whole hour.
Oh, okay.
Is chanting and meditation. So you're welcome to come at 8 or any time and just join in anytime.
So make a Dharma marathon out of Wednesdays. Just we would really want to encourage this community to kind of really take advantage of the wisdom there in the sutta study. Deborah's saying, I'm grateful for the beautiful, warm, dedicated community built in the Bay Area. And let's get to a question. There's so much praise there. It's beautiful. Okay. Landon, I would love to hear more. Is the chitta truly eternal? Speaking of questions, how does that understanding that the mind isn't aging square with impermanence? Thank you so much. Such a wonderful conversation.
This is a very important question, because if the chitta is outside of time, then it isn't eternal or impermanent. And I really think this squares with what the Buddha and Venerable Sariputta, when they get to that point where, people want to know what happens to Tathagata after he dies, what happens to the Arahant after they die. And there's it just doesn't apply. And the reason it doesn't apply is that chitta is not a thing. The chitta is not a self. The chitta is a process. It's a verb. It's not a noun. We in our language we call it something, and then it makes it seem like it's a thing, but it's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Don't make it a thing.
Don't make it a thing. Don't think we own it, or that we are it, or that it can be something we are at all. So this chitta element, maybe that even makes it a thing. The language is just so inadequate here, but that if this is outside of time, and we can understand it through meditation, but we can't understand it through logic. And this is what the Buddha said over and over again. You can't get to understanding the real nature of things through reasoning. We need to use reasoning to gather as much of it as we can from what the Buddha says. There's a tremendous amount that's practical, observable in normal consciousness, but to really understand something outside of time, we have to allow the mind to relax enough to go to that space.
So like if the mind isn't aging, and since like a process doesn't really age, right? And then like if the process stops, that's the impermanent part, right? It's just like it goes still, it stops running in the same way.
But it doesn't stop in a nihilistic ending way.
It's just like
it's just still.
I love that the Buddha didn't bother trying to answer this question for people, because it really doesn't matter. Like it's interesting and it's fun and we love to play with these things, and that's part of why we're stuck here. So I like the idea of just practicing and seeing for yourself, and then you won't have the question like the Ajahn would say to you, like, if you're asking this question, you're still confused, just go practice. And I like that part about like, let's just go practice.
Yeah. And whenever we're veering in the direction of eternalism, or we think someone who's well down the path is saying that something's eternalism, there's no way that's going to be the case. They know that the things of our perception and understanding are not eternal. And we also know that if we veer towards nihilism, we're also going to be off the track. So just hold it lightly and go into it and see for yourself.
So this next question kind of, it either dovetails or is undercut by your answer there, but it definitely relates what you just said to this question of reappearance by aspiration. So here Holly asks, so if the chitta is outside of time, then an aspiration to be able to ordain a next life, it is the chitta that carries the aspiration forward in time? Yes? Question mark?
This is also a very good question. And I think of it more as there is that that consciousness that continues, because there's still unfinished business. There's still karma. We haven't gone still. And the push of that energy, that craving to be reborn, to finish that business, that's what pushes us on to the next life. And I would say that the aspiration exists within the chitta, but it's not the chitta. And it's like, okay, so all of this stuff, this karma that results of my actions and the aspiration and all of these things, this desire to complete something that is not yet completed or not yet understood, that all moves us in that direction. But it's trying to get our not just get our mind around, like you said, we can't really get our mind around this. Like if you see in meditation that time is just a convention, then come back to normal consciousness. You can't make sense of it. You know it's true, but you can't make sense of it. You can't explain it, really. So I would hold the chitta in that kind of way, that it's not to think this is part of the khandas. I mean, I know that's the commentarial view, is that everything fits into the khandas, and that's where some of the masters deviate from the traditional perspective. And I've kind of been taught to not hold the commentary as high as I would the suttas, and to hold direct experience of those who are practicing so well, with a lot of respect.
Thank you, Ayya. I know we have to let you go now, and we all have to jump off. I did have one final question, and people can feel free to join the Zoom right now if they'd like. But maybe if we just have another minute or two, we have a community member who recently lost her mother, and we have others who've, death is far more present in people's lives than I think we realize. What advice would you have for someone grieving, like in terms of how do they honor a death? Is there a ritual you'd recommend or some way of remembering for people in that situation? I know it's a strange ending question, but it's also relevant.
Yeah, it's very relevant. I think any kind of ritual that feels meaningful for honoring the person and your relationship and your memories of them is great. I think it's important to feel what you feel without feeling bad about it, but also don't cling to the feelings. Know that they are also a process and they keep changing. And if you find you're not feeling the same way, I mean, I've known people who feel like, wow, if I'm not just overwhelmed with sadness, I must not have cared enough or something. Don't think like that. Really see the feelings as like weather passing through, and to respect them and observe them, but don't cling to them. And there's no magic in feeling bad. The Buddha said you don't do the person who's departed any good by being sad. So don't try to be sad. Try to remember the good things and try to do the things that actually can help them, like dedicating your practice to them, doing good things and sharing the merit with them, and that kind of encouragement for them to have good conditions in their next life, and all the support that they need to develop further and be happy and fully safe in their lives until they're completely at peace.
Thank you, Ayys. And we do have to move on to our Zoom session. Ajahn Kobilo has pasted the link into the chat. If you can't see it there, feel free to go to clearmountainmonastery.org, and on the Wednesday evening event listing, you'll find the link to the Zoom where we usually have a more intimate discussion for 45 minutes. But if you also in the future would like to join the Ayya Sutta study, that just is on their Karuna Buddhist Vihara website. I believe it's karunabv.org. And just to say, the Ayyas will be probably visiting us June 22nd and 23rd after their Cloud Mountain retreat. We're so delighted to have you both here. And just to say happy birthday from our community. We are so blessed to have you as sisters, and so grateful for your friendship and guidance. Ajahn Kobilo? Balloons. So many balloons.
Yeah. So great to see you both, and can't wait to see you in person. So have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you both. It's great to see you too. And we look forward to visiting.